How Israel and Palestine became enemies. Flashback. The story of Israel and Palestine didn't start with rockets or borders. It started with fear, exile, and an idea that refused to die. This is one of the longest and most painful conflicts in modern history, a fight over land, faith, and identity. So, how did it all begin? Let's dive into it. 1. The dream that started it all. The year was 1891. An Austrian journalist named Theodor Herzl arrived in Paris. He expected the land of liberty and progress, but what he found was hatred. A Jewish officer was accused of treason in what became known as the Dreyfus affair. Crowds shouted for his death. Herzl watched in disbelief. He realized something: no matter how educated, how loyal, or how successful Jews became, they would never truly belong in Europe. That moment changed him forever. He dreamed of a homeland, a place where Jews could live free of persecution, and for Herzl, that place was Palestine. He called this movement Zionism, a simple idea that would soon reshape the world. 2. The ancient homeland. To understand why Herzl chose Palestine, we need to go back thousands of years. The ancient Israelites lived in this very region, what we now call Israel and Palestine. They built Jerusalem, they built their temple, and they believed God had promised them this land. But history tore them apart. The Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Romans, and later the Ottomans, each invasion scattered the Jewish people further. By the time of the Roman Empire, most Jews were gone, living across Europe and the Middle East. But their dream of return never disappeared. 3. The return begins centuries later. In the 19th century, Jews began returning to Palestine, small groups at first. They bought land, built farms, and created new communities. But this land wasn't empty. Palestine was already home to tens of thousands of Arab families, farmers, merchants, and herders who had lived there for generations. The newcomers brought their own language, culture, and ambitions. They wanted to rebuild their ancient homeland, not just settle in it. And slowly, tension began to rise. 4. The British and the broken promise. Then came World War I. The Ottoman Empire fell, and the British took control of Palestine. In 1917, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, promising a national home for the Jewish people. At the same time, they told the Arabs they'd support their independence. 2 promises. 1 land. A recipe for disaster. By the 1930s, as Hitler rose to power, Jewish refugees fled Europe by the thousands. They arrived in Palestine desperate, homeless, traumatized. To the Arab population, it looked like colonization. To the Jews, it felt like survival. And that difference in perspective would define everything that followed. 5. The birth of Israel. In 1947, the United Nations stepped in with a plan: 55% of the land for a Jewish state, 44% for an Arab one. Jerusalem to be shared and governed internationally. The Jewish leadership accepted it, the Arab leadership rejected it. A year later, in 1948, the Jewish people declared the State of Israel. Within hours, 5 Arab countries attacked, but Israel fought back and won. By the end of the war, they controlled 77% of the land, and more than 700,000 Palestinians were forced to flee. They call it the Nakba, the catastrophe. Entire families displaced, towns erased, a wound that never healed. 6. The Six-Day War and the divide. Fast forward to 1967, another war broke out, the Six-Day War. In less than a week, Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, the very lands Palestinians wanted for their future state. From that moment, everything changed. Israel became stronger, larger, more confident. Palestine became fragmented, controlled, and silenced. In the West Bank, settlements spread. In Gaza, a blockade tightened, and generation after generation grew up behind walls. 7. The present and the peace today. Israel stands as one of the region's most powerful nations economically, militarily, technologically. Palestine remains divided, with a Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and Hamas ruling Gaza. Decades of violence have hardened hearts on both sides. But here's what's shifting. Even in the middle of war, both sides are starting to realize that no one truly wins. The latest ceasefire deals are fragile, but they show one thing: people are tired. Tired of funerals, fear, and fighting that leads nowhere. 8. The lesson. Here's the truth. There's no military solution to this. You can't bomb your way to peace. Israel's security and Palestine's freedom, they're not opposites. They depend on each other. History shows that every time one side loses its humanity, both sides lose their future. So maybe the lesson isn't about religion or politics at all. Maybe it's this: before there can be peace on paper, there has to be peace in people. A willingness to see the other not as an enemy, but as a human being who's also tired of the pain. So, after more than 70 years of conflict, is a two-state solution still possible? Share your thoughts below. Because understanding this history isn't about taking sides, it's about making sure we don't repeat it.